All right. If the message is to be believed, we are now on the air with the Ubiquity Roleplaying System, as expressed by Triple Ace Games in Leagues of Adventure, but more specifically, Leagues of Gothic Horror, the new genre and setting supplement for the line. Leagues of Gothic Horror is, well, packed with horror. And to help me bring that out, I have two guests today. We have Andre Martinez and we have Scott Reimer. And I'll give them a moment to introduce themselves in a second. Our session tonight will run about 2 hours and will be oriented toward investigation in an old manor house in the moors. What will happen? Well, stick around and find out. Now, let me introduce my players. Scott, let's start with you.
Yep, Scott Reimer. I'm known as Black Campbell online. I have my own blog where I do a bunch of game miscellany. Lately I've been starting to do more of the Ubiquity thing, primarily for the Space 1889 game that just hit. But prior to that I did an awful lot dealing with Cortex and specifically the Battlestar Galactica game, which we ran for ungodly long time, 5 years. We ran longer than the show ran. Woo! So,
Testament.
And I've been writing in the game industry since about 2001, on and off. Got a couple of novels to my name and teach college. I've been running games for 35 years, something like that. So, God, I even look old on this. Whoa! Okay, over to Andre.
It's experience. Tell us about Edmund Wilson.
Edmund Wilson is a fellow from a good family with no money, thanks to his father's self-philanthropic ways. And after his mother died, his father was cut off, had to move in with his uncle if they were to keep the money. And eventually, after going to Winchester School, decided to join the Metropolitan Police, where he is now a detective sergeant in a unexplained threats desk of the Special Branch.
Right. Nice. Okay. Now, Andre.
Unmute. Okay, hello, Andre Martinez. I run and co-run, I guess now it has become bigger than just me and a few people, but the Star Wars The Tides of Change role-playing game club, and we play Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars series of role-playing games and do a lot of that stuff. I also enjoy Ubiquity. This is actually my first session as a player. I have Hex. I got it as a present from Brigade Con quite some time ago, and I enjoy the Ubiquity system as far as engaging it, reading it. But this will be really the first time that I've played on the Runeslinger and with other experienced players, so it'll be quite a treat for me. And yeah, so that's about it. I mean, you know, we play games all the time. You know, if you're interested in Star Wars, come see us. If you're interested in Ubiquity, please tune into Runeslinger, and we should be doing some more of that on our side as well. So thank you for having me, man.
All right, my pleasure. And so, it's a little difficult to do horror online in Hangouts, and particularly something as, let's say, nuanced as Gothic Horror. But we'll do our best. Among the many possible interruptions that may occur tonight will be brought on by my many dogs who seem to want to participate tonight. One of whom, who's just finished surgery, she's in my lap. You may hear her snoring, and my apologies. Just try and pretend like that's a terrifying thing as you watch and as you play. Now, a quick overview of Ubiquity. It's a die pool system. We will be using Dice Stream for our dice. We'll be using D8s. Any rolled even number is a success. Any rolled odd number is not. Players can spend what are called style points, which they will earn in play, to increase their die pool or to resist incoming damage should things take a violent turn. And that's enough for now to start. Beauregard Jasper Claps and Edmund Wilson, many, many years ago when they were boys at the Winchester School, had a third friend, a sensitive friend, very intelligent, perhaps too intelligent for his own good. Always interested in things he was not supposed to do, things he was not supposed to know. His name was Owen Huddersfield. Now, life has taken turns. The three friends have been separated over many years and have grown to adulthood. But recently, a handwritten letter from a stranger in a woman's fine hand has arrived, begging each man to travel to Malmorto estate to help Owen. Something terrible has befallen him. He will not rise from his bed. He will not eat. He will not talk to anyone. She hopes that meeting his old school friends again might help rouse him from whatever it is that has troubled him. Being good friends, and being as how we have only a short time to play. The travel from London has passed. It was a long and difficult journey, making transfers, growing more and more fatigued. And although you were expected to arrive late in the afternoon, it is now night when you finally get to the station. Will the coachman that you are expecting be there? As you leave the train, you catch sight of one black boxed-in carriage waiting outside the station, and standing in front of it, a rail-thin elderly man with a very pinched and troubled face. Stepping from the train, the two of you catch sight of each other for the first time in decades.
Oh, God, Edmund, what are we doing here now?
You've lost hair.
What kind of a reception is this? Who is this? This person is... What is this, a raisin who's receiving us?
Oh,
Looks at the coachman and then at Edmund.
let's go see what's going on. How are you, then?
Well, horrible. Thanks for asking.
Supposedly you've been traveling somewhat, haven't you?
Well, my brother would say I was. At least he would say with his own namesake, but yes, I say that would be the case.
Step up, get to the coachman, and... Eddie Wilson.
He inclines his head in a mild German accent. Welcome. And Mr. Jasper Claps?
Beauregard starts loading up his rifle case and luggage on the...
Allow me, sir.
Are you sure? You're so frail.
Please. He opens the door.
Beauregard just kind of waves off the concern at this point.
I'll just toss my Gladstone bag inside. Thoop. Climb in.
Now, the rail-thin fellow is struggling terribly with the luggage. He's not going to get it up on top, so he moves it around behind to the luggage case.
Just
and
leaves
then
it lying there and drives away.
climbs laboriously up.
Must have fallen off.
He must be, pushing 70. He gets up, and the carriage pulls away. As polite as he is, there's a mark about him of worry around the eyes, lack of sleep. The trip out to the manor is a long and winding, dark one. The carriage is well maintained, but has the smell of age about it. The trees are overhanging every step of the way. When you finally arrive at the main gate, there's a massive stone pillars on either side of the road. The road has become progressively worse the closer you've gotten to the manor. And you are at elevation, looking down through the darkness, and the only light is the moon above, just peering down through the clouds. The manor itself is just a black blot in the moonlight, surrounded by carefully manicured gardens and hedges. And Carl, the driver, informs you that you will be walking from here.
Edmund, do you remember the estate being this welcoming?
It's been a long time since we've been here. It's obviously not in the best of conditions. I'll grab my Gladstone bag and I'll assist him with one of his pieces. I'll leave the heaviest one for him.
Sure thing.
Moving towards you up the road, there are the figures of a lady and 2 preteen children.
Oh, children are creepy. I scream and run for the hills. Ah! Okay.
Game over.
I lost my sanity. Okay. Well, let's go meet them.
Now they're walking up the road in darkness, carrying no light.
I'm based out of Bow Street. There's nothing to be afraid of here.
All right.
A couple of years ago in Whitechapel, let me tell you. You think this is scary. So, well, once we get to them, Detective Sergeant Wilson, this is Mr. Jasper Claps.
The woman presses the children behind her skirts and inclines her head and says, please go on to the house.
It's not a kind of greeting. Who is the mistress of the home?
Well, Carl will be back to join you in a moment, and Cook is in the kitchens.
Yeah, it's time to do something about this one. I'm going to kind of pull myself up a little bit and play the cop and do the...
Yeah.
Madam, what's your name?
Well, I'm Mrs. Kaufman. I'm Carl's wife. She's trying to hide a small valise. She's trying to hide a small valise behind her skirts along with her kids, and there's just no way she's going to be able to do that.
Mrs. Kaufman, you say?
Yes.
And you're Mr. Huddersfield's wife. Are you using your own name?
No, I'm Carl's wife, the butler.
Okay, that's my mistake. This is on a trip, are you?
We have a few days off, she says, lying.
Without a candle, nonetheless. But why, in such dark surroundings, are you traveling about?
Well, you are very late, and Carl was supposed to have been back several hours ago, and
Traveling
we didn't
outside
want.
in the dark could have been very hazardous to the children's health.
But
Why don't you tell me what's going on, young lady? Even if she's not young, I'll call her that.
That's an exaggeration of the kindest order.
They're not quite as willing to talk to you if you're like, look, old crone. I found that doesn't tend to work well.
She says, going, and she gives up the ghost. She says, I will not sleep another night in this house.
What's going on?
You are old friends of Master Huddersfield.
Mm-hmm.
He is not himself. With his raving, his yelling, and that woman, I will not stay here another night.
Right.
where do you intend to go? Is safety in the darkness as a result? Or would you rather stay in the safety of this abode? Where are you going?
Now Carl limps up from behind and says, Gentlemen, I will be along shortly.
All right. Yeah, we'll let him go. Yeah, let him
He
go.
holds his hand out to his wife, and he bows again, and again he gestures toward the house.
And she follows him back to the house?
No, they're
No,
getting
she's
in the carriage and getting the hell out.
in the carriage.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
All right, let's go on.
Okay.
What could possibly go wrong?
Everything. Everything will go wrong. You'll see.
So yeah, we'll head on over.
Okay. The roadway has potholes and puddles and not as well maintained as it should, which may be why he wouldn't take the carriage down it. But the gardens that you could glimpse in the moonlight from far away, the closer you get, the wilder they become. The flowers are overgrown with weeds, and the shrubs have lost their shape. The topiary, it's difficult to see what was intended anymore. The shapes are wild, and in the moonlight and the shadows are possibly unsettling for normal folk, but certainly not men who've survived the Afghan war, who've traveled India, hunted great beasts like Beauregard, or has hunted human beasts like Wilson. The house itself just radiates coldness. It's old, in the old style, and stone. The door is partially open, and inside is the faintest flicker of light.
All right, knock.
The windows are shrouded with heavy curtains. At your knock, the door, thick, 6 inches thick, barely moves. But it's open maybe 2 inches.
Oh,
I kick it open.
door. That actually allows entry then. So I'll push it open, step in, call out. Yeah. Hello, is anyone at home?
Immediately in front is a large round table. And on it is a candle. I'm getting my own voice back in.
I have it. Must be his because I have headphones in.
Yeah, I'm not having a problem.
Okay. All right. So it's a candle in a holder. There is a flower vase behind the candle, and the flowers have died. Scott, are you still wearing your headphones?
I am. I'm hearing you just fine.
All right, I'm going to mute myself, see if it's me. Sorry.
Okay.
You still getting it? Or are you?
Hello. Yeah, I'm still getting it. I'm still getting the echo.
Okay. Hang on. Let me mute and see if it's me.
Is there an echo now? There isn't. Okay. All right.
How about now?
Everything's fine.
Okay.
Nope, the echo is back.
It must be me. Yeah.
Okay. So
Okay,
are
let's see.
the
Better?
speaker on your laptop is on?
It shouldn't be, but maybe I'm just too close.
Okay. Sorry about that. Continue.
Okay. So to deal with the echo, if we can mute when not speaking, that will be fine. Okay. All right. As you step through the very heavy door into the lobby, the very first thing in front of you is a large, round wooden table. On the table, there is a candle holder, the type that you can hold with one finger, and a thin taper is burning in it, the light flickering even more wildly as the door opens. Behind the candle is a vase filled with dead flowers, likely taken from the garden. Whoever the housekeeper is, she's definitely not keeping up appearances. There's leaf litter in and around the doorway area, traces of muddy feet coming in and coming out. You can hear the sound of clanking deeper in the house, kitchen noises and that sort of thing. Directly behind the round table is a curving staircase which goes up to a very large landing and an enormous portrait, which in the darkness it's difficult to discern who it might be.
Are there other candles in the area that we can grab?
There are, along the wall, there are candles that can be taken off.
Okay, let's grab a couple and light them up. That way then we can get some more light. And grab a few, hold them in my hand, and hand off the candle to Beauregard there. I'm just going to leave my stuff off to the side, close the door.
Beauregard's not liking the appearance of the manor in its entirety. He does not like what he sees. He does not like the condition of the grounds. He does not like anything at all, and he's very concerned. So what he does is he goes into his suitcase, grabs the candle, illuminates his suitcase, and he actually grabs his pistol. And he starts to walk towards the staircase.
Okay. Steady on with that, all right? Let's not overreact.
It's a rational thing to do, of course.
I'm going to leave mine in my Gladstone bag. I already have my blackjack in my pocket. That's just standard. So if I have to, I'll whack somebody. But you know, guns, that's only in the absolute extreme of things. So I'm going to head out towards where the noise is. So do you want to hold together, or do we want to break up so we can do more damage?
You're the detective. You tell
Let's
me
go
what is
where
the
the
most
noise
best
is.
strategy.
So, and of course, peek in the various different places as we pass to just kind of make certain that there's nobody lurking in the dark, and make our way back to wherever the noise is.
So, moving forward across the lobby, there are doors on the left and right which would go into the sitting room, of course, and maybe a den or a games room, something like that.
Yeah,
But
have a look.
approaching, all right, left or right?
Left.
Okay. To the left is the sitting room, and all of the furniture is shrouded in white sheets.
All right. All right, that's unusual.
On the other side of the hall is indeed a games room. The billiards table, books, maps, that sort of thing. Probably used more for smoking and drinking than anything else. And it doesn't appear to have been used in a very long time. There's a coat of dust across the games table.
And we're accompanying each other, correct? I go immediately to the liquor cabinet.
It is well stocked and dusty.
And completely unused. No fingerprints, no movement whatsoever.
Right.
Is there
they have
Sorry,
go ahead.
Traditionally, there would be a medicine cabinet close to the liquor cabinet. Is that correct, or is that not correct?
For things like laudanum to soothe wrecked nerves.
Basically, you know what I would like to do or request is if I can roll in some sort of investigation in the area that I'm in to see if I can clue into something. Is that possible?
Well, let's play it by ear. Tell me what you're looking for, what you're doing.
Okay, so basically what I'm looking for is if there's no disturbance whatsoever, most likely near the liquor cabinet there is going to be some form of opiate or some form of, liquid sedative that would be there to ease the pain of one's suffering, and that's kind of why I went that area. So I'm trying to see if there's anything like that.
This whole room seems to be disused, and it's been long enough that there's visible dust in the candlelight on desktops, on books on the desk, on the liquor cabinet, and so on.
I whisper softly to Edmund, and I say, "She has not eased his suffering with drink."
Well, they haven't done a whole lot with the upkeep of the house either. It doesn't look lived in at all. Judging from the dust levels, how long would I say it's been since anyone's been in here?
More than a month.
Okay, but not much more than that, would you say?
No cobwebs or things like that. But
okay. Lift one of the sheets. I'm assuming they have a sheet over the billiard table or something like that, based off of the other description. Is there dust underneath that as well?
No.
Okay. So they actually packed the place up before it went to disuse.
I rejoin Edmund as he's observing.
All right. It looks as if they were ready to leave the place. Well, they've obviously not used the rooms for the last month or so, but they had the full thought to actually pack everything up.
And the time.
Yes.
Let's continue.
Whatever happened here wasn't spontaneous. All right, let's go find that noise.
Agree.
Okay. So moving back out into the main lobby and going in the small doorway under the stairs toward the servants' part of the house, you very quickly come across the kitchen. And the kitchen is well lit, quite well lit, and hot.
It's not on fire, I hope.
Not that well lit.
Well, this was unexpected. Yeah. All right.
Series of unfortunate events.
Anyone present?
Yes, there is. Sitting on the floor next to the brick wall filled with its many ovens for baking and whatnot, leaning up against the wood box is a very large cook in stained whites with a bottle of whiskey in one hand, quite drunk. Kind of trying to focus on you as you come through the door with a look of terror on his face.
Who are you?
Who are you?
Detective Sergeant Wilson.
He's blinking owlishly.
This is my companion Beauregard.
I'm with him.
He relaxes.
What's going on here? I'm actually going to kneel down so I'm at his level. and less
Oh,
threatening, hopefully.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
What's horrible?
Do you want a drink?
I start circling.
Yep, and grab a couple of glasses, would you?
Right away. Right away. Not a problem.
So what's horrible? What's going on? Place looks
Oh,
confused.
the screaming. The screaming. It never stops.
What's screaming? Who's screaming?
The other one. I mean, he's almost asleep. He's so drunk. She just keeps screaming and saying, "Do it, do it." But I don't know what to do.
I return with 3 glasses.
This just sounds like an excellent honeymoon night. No, that's me. All right, I'm good. We'll pour out the drinks for everybody this time. I'll check the ovens. Nothing's burning or anything in them, right?
No, he's been heating them for a ridiculous amount of time. There doesn't seem to be anything in them.
I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna turn off the stuff so that we don't have any spontaneous destruction of the household. If there's a candelabra or anything that we can light so that we can keep the light level up, and also we might want to look see if there's some victuals since we have been traveling a while.
Right. Now the house seems to be ancient. Rather than oil lamps or something more convenient, they use candles. There are candelabras, and there's all sorts of that stuff in and around this area. The silver is kept in a room off to the side, and so on.
Okay. Yeah, light up a bunch of them, put them on the table. Let's get enough light so these people seem like this guy and the people we encountered all seem quite distraught. So it'll probably soothe their minds if there's a bit more light. Even though, of course, burning through these candles it'd be like today turning your heat up to 105. I don't know why my bill's so high. So yeah, light up a bunch of the candles, get the place lit up a bit, let Beauregard grab a bit of a drink since it seemed like he wanted one as well.
Beauregard does not drink. Beauregard does not drink, and he hands the glasses over, and whatever is transpired thus far does, but he does not pour himself a drink, and he watches what the chef does with the drink, and he eyeballs the condition of the bottle or that the drink came from. Is it dusty?
No, and it's certainly not the sort of thing you would expect your old friend to buy for himself. He's not breaking into Master's stash and getting hammered in the kitchen, for example.
Okay.
Is it crappy whiskey or something?
Yeah, he's reducing himself to a drunken stupor as fast as he can.
What is it, gin?
Whiskey, yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely pour myself a slug, and then I'll do a quick reconnoiter, looking for food while I talk to the guy. I do actually have interrogation as one of my specialties, so I would like to proceed to get some information out of this fellow.
All right. So here you are in the kitchen. You get him up into a chair, and you get the candelabra lit. You have a decent amount of light. You check the ovens to make sure that nothing's going to burn or set the house on fire. Laid out around the room, there is every indication that at some point during this day he was preparing for your arrival. Right? There's a menu prepared in the same hand as the letter you received, and there are there's ducks hanging, and there's vegetables soaking, and so on. At some point during the day, he was perfectly fine and was preparing food for tonight's meal. Now, nothing has been cooked. The ovens have been heating for hours and hours, and he's a drunken mess on the floor. getting him up into the seat, you start to apply some pressure. So, Scott, let's have our first roll of the evening. Use D8s in Dice Stream for your interrogation rating.
Well, I have an interrogation of 7, so I think I'm going to run with the 3 average and roll the extra one.
All right, do it.
Alrighty. Ding, that's an even. That was what we were calling on. So that's 4.
4 successes is enough.
I'll actually give him, if there's like vegetables, I'll put something out, maybe some bread. If there's got to be some bread, set it out so there's something for him as well, because that might actually stabilize him, especially if he's got some booze in him. And I'm going to start the soft touch on it first. What's going on? Find out what his name is. When does the screaming happen? It's the lady of the house. Is it at night? Is it during the day?
Right.
You obviously were doing all right this morning. What happened?
I thought I could get through it. Every time Anna, and Anna's the woman who wrote you the letter, every time Anna's here, everything makes sense. But when she's gone is when the screaming starts.
And she's not here now.
No, she's to come back in the morning.
When did she leave?
She left this morning.
For where?
Came, she gave me the menu, but her governess does not like this house.
Her governess? She's married, though, yes? Anna?
Anna?
To Owen?
No, she's engaged to...
All right.
He's engaged to Master Huddersfield.
Right, so she's gone home.
Correct. She would never stay the night, sir.
Where's her home?
Further down the road, past
They
Baskervilles.
usually had names at this time. Oh, it's the Thomas house. Who lives there? Oh, the Thomases.
Past the Baskervilles, he said.
Okay.
And the estate is called Holdings.
All right. So she's been gone for a while. What happened? The screaming, is it the master of the house?
At first it's him. And then it's her. The other one.
Who?
Jane.
What other one? Jane.
We don't talk
Who's
about her,
Jane?
sir.
No, we're talking about her now. You need my help, so I need to know, who is Jane?
He wants to tell you.
No, we don't speak his name. We don't do that crap here.
He wants to tell you, and he's gripping the bottle tightly. He's also gripping the glass that you gave him tightly, and he's gonna get himself together, and he's gonna tell you. And he goes, she was Master's. And at that moment, you hear a male voice screaming in abject terror from high in the house.
Quick, butler guard. Someone needs our help.
I immediately run. What's the
Back
screaming?
to London. Yep, let's go find it.
Yes.
Because at this point, I'm not buying the whole weird, strange Gothic horror thing, because I think this is just something weird going on with my friend. Something explainable. It's obviously just everyone's kind of lost their gourd out here, right?
Perfectly rational
We're
explanation.
certainly not going to walk into something absolutely horrifying and terrible, right?
A perfectly rational explanation for all of this, sir.
Is it upstairs?
It's upstairs.
It's upstairs, so you have to actually go back out towards the front of the home to circle back upstairs, correct?
Correct.
Excellent, because when I do that, I actually start moving quite speedily toward that direction. I also pick up my rifle case, and I go up the stairs. Coming!
What is it? Don't know. Don't care.
Coming! I have perfectly rational explanation for carrying this.
Well, yeah, they're screaming. So, yeah, we'll up the stairs, get up to the top, ignore the fact that the painting's probably watching us as we go.
Right. Exactly.
Did you feel something? No. All right. Go find out where this is coming.
So you charge up to the first landing, the huge portrait there at the top of the landing, peering down, and you know, it's the face of what you imagine Owen would look like now as an older man, but the painting itself is much older, so some ancestor or whatnot. Keep charging up the stairs, candles flickering wildly, shadows everywhere, and the scream fades out and just becomes a repetitious no, no, no from further down the hall. This floor reserved for bedrooms and the like.
I'm kicking open every door until I can find my friend. Period.
I'm heading straight for the noise, so while he clears the house and hopefully finds out how the monster works, I'll go find our friend.
Okay. At the end of the hall is the master bedroom. Beauregard is shattering door frames and blowing doors open. Inside each room, as he reveals them, there are more signs of care having been taken to close the house. White sheets over chairs and the beds stripped. But the noise is coming from the end of the hall, from the master bedroom. A large double door at the end of the hall. And the doors are not closed. They are so heavy that they would probably have drowned out the screaming. But one door is almost closed and the other one is at a 45-degree angle. You can see inside. There's a very dim light, maybe from just the grate in the fireplace.
Pause dramatically. Open up the doors.
Okay, your shadow
So of course
stretches across the floor.
So I'm standing right in the middle, so I can get killed by whatever comes through. So, 'cause
Your shadow stretches across the deep red carpet as Beauregard comes up behind with his candles and rifle and pistol.
Rifle case.
Did you bring the howitzer with you?
That's right. Chopper.
Give me a moment to set this up.
Exactly.
Square in the center of your vision is the large four-poster bed. There is no sign of this room having been packed. The draperies are still hanging down around the bed. They've been thrown open on one side, and in a huddled heap in his night clothes, all disheveled, is Owen Huddersfield. He has his hands over his face, and he's just sobbing into his hands, saying, "No, no, no." And in the direction he would be looking if he weren't burying his hands is the huge window which would overlook the front of the house, the front yard. And it's thrown wide open, and the curtains are blowing out into the night air.
Okay. Why don't you close the windows quick? I'll go to him.
Beauregard, he puts down his case, and he starts to whisper to himself. He says, "Rational explanation, my ass." And he opens up the case, and he says, "I know there's supernatural activity here, but I can't talk about it much, can I?" And he whispers in complete frustration, "This is going to be the worst thing we can ever encounter. One of us is going to lose a finger." Just starts cleaning out his rifle. He says, "Now get the bloody windows." And he just starts walking there with it while he's cleaning his rifle, just completely frustrated. He starts whispering stuff about rationality versus the supernatural in complete frustration.
Okay.
All right. Well, it looks like I'm on my own for this one. I'm gonna make my way over to Owen and put the hand on his shoulder and do the Owen until he sort of responds.
Okay. He pulls his hands apart and he looks up and he says, "Eddie?"
Yes.
And Beauregard, you hear that. You hear him say it, and you recognize the voice from school long ago. But as you're pulling the window closed, you see a woman fall past.
Did I see this as well?
In a downward fall?
Yes, downward fall from above toward the
Certain
cobbles
death.
of the path below. Yeah, certain death, absolutely. So you've just been closing the windows. They're just closing. Eddie's face to face with Owen with his back to the window, and the windows just latch, and you see this woman shoot past to her certain death
Immediately
down below.
open up the windows and go blast, and I look down to see where she is.
There's no one there.
All right.
What? What did you see?
Saw a woman fall to her demise. She's no longer there. I saw either a vision or hallucination, I am unsure. However, what I did see seemed extremely real to me.
Now, Beauregard, what I'd like you to do is your willpower. Now, double that number, and that's your dice pool. What we're doing now is invoking the horror mechanic, which first appeared in Terror on the Frozen Plateau, I think it was called. And the horror mechanic for Ubiquity, the basic one. So willpower times 2 is your roll versus the horror rating of this apparition that you have just seen.
Okay, here we go. That's a 4, and I'm going to roll, and here we go.
Okay.
That's 3 successes.
Beat the statistical average.
Now, you've had a fright. Right. This doesn't affect your sanity rating, but it does affect your heart rate.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so I start breathing heavily. I'm perspiring. I look at Edmund and I say, "How is he?"
Not in a good way. Owen, what's happening here?
Eddie, you've grown old.
So have you. So's he. At a point. Beauregard.
Well, I don't know.
You're huge.
Hey. That's you're only speaking the truth.
What's going on here?
Why are you here?
Your fiancée asked us to come check on you. What's happening?
Yes, have you met her? I'm going to get married, Eddie.
He says, we haven't met her. She's back at home. It would be inappropriate for her to stay here. And says, what's going on? What's with the screaming?
Screaming. I heard it too. But it stopped when you came.
So I'm going to kind of glance back at Beauregard there and do the, let's get him cleaned up. Give him the opportunity. Try and,
he needs it.
The whole point is to try and comfort him, maybe get him stabilized a little bit, because right now he's not any good to us until he kind of, feels. So we'll, I'll quick look around, if there's a wash pan that looks like it's clean, that can be used, we'll get some water, help him
Next
get
to the
cleaned up
bed.
a little bit. Grab some clothes, lay them out for him.
Okay. He's terribly thin. He's never a large person to begin with, but he's wasting away. There's evidence of dishes, sitting for a long time. There's stains in the woodwork and that sort of thing. The room is clean. I eat. I have an excellent cook. Bobby is a fantastic cook.
Yeah, we met him. He says, "You're awfully thin.
Well,
Perhaps you've been ill?"
I was traveling. I suppose Carl told you that I'm sick and I have a fever, but it's not true.
Where did you travel from, friend?
Oh, I was in Egypt, and there were so many things to learn, but I had to return. It was time to get married, and Anna agreed, and so I am back.
What were you doing in Egypt?
I slowly edge over to Edmund and I say we must find out more about Egypt immediately.
Ask him what was going on in Egypt.
Oh, he becomes much more animated, and he starts talking about the dig that he was on, or the more he talks, the more you realize it was a dig that was planned. There was a lot of trekking, there were a lot of guides, there were a lot of camels, there was not a lot of success. But he clearly fell in love with the place.
Well, you're home right now. He says, why don't we get you cleaned up? And he says, we'll go downstairs. You can tell us all about it.
Yes.
Beauregard interrupts him immediately, and he says, "My good friend, have you brought anything back with you from Egypt?"
Yes. I did.
Might I see it, please?
So he follows through with Detective Sergeant Wilson's advice. He washes his face and hands, and you help him into his clothes, and he's presentable for leaving the bedroom. And none of his clothes fit anymore. The collars are too big, the waistcoat is too wide, the pants, the belt has already had some notches added to it, and it's still loose. And he's still very excited and wants to show you what he found. And he wants to take you downstairs to the den that you know is already closed and packed up.
Huh?
Back down the stairs. He averts his face from the portrait as he goes down the stairs.
Now I'll look at the portrait.
Okay. It's the spitting image of Owen, but healthy and with a hard line above the eyes.
Is that your father?
Yes.
All right, follow him down. Let's have a look at whatever this thing is that he found.
So he seems a little confused when you get into the games room at first, that everything's shrouded. He starts going, "Where is it?" And he moves over to the desk, and he's taking books off the desk and then putting them back down, trying to get the sheet off. He's a wreck. But whatever it is he's trying to show you is in the desk.
All right, I'll assist him. Nice and try and slow him down, keep him from getting too agitated, and kind of give Beauregard the keep an eye out look.
I do.
Now, in the locked desk drawer that the two of you finally get open, it's just junk. Foreign,
Fine junk.
yes. but little trinkets, metal and wooden trinkets, bronze. It doesn't look like any kind of antiquity, prized from the desert sands or anything like that. It looks like something that would
Across the room,
attract the mind of a child.
as he's keeping watch, he's not very close uh, to his friends. So he kind of, I guess, gestures towards Edmund and says, "I wonder whatever he is looking for. Would you wager a guess, Edmund?"
Well, obviously something of value, at least to him. I'll help him take the stuff out and lay it out on the pool table so that it's actually out and visible, and we can spread it out. So even if it's perhaps not to me looking like it might be something of value, perhaps Beauregard might have some sort of angle. He's obviously been to Africa and things like that. He's a big game hunter. I don't run across this sort of thing in Limehouse very often.
Right.
That's more the Chinese mysticism.
Right on. So, like I say, trinkets, minor things, nothing that strikes either of you as being of antiquity or having that sense of age about it. But they're fascinating to him.
Beauregard slowly approaches, and he leans down towards Owen, and he says, "What do you see, Owen?"
Well, they're wonderful. The craftsmanship. It speaks of such a spiritual sense. And after I'm married, Anna and I will return to Egypt, and we will live there, and we will uncover great things. And yes, I will marry Anna, and nothing is going to get in the way of that. And you understand, don't you?
Absolutely. Who has proposed that you would not?
Well, everyone.
And why is that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Of these relics that you have uncovered here, which is the most important?
Oh. And he just picks up what looks to be some adornment for a necklace. No necklace. Just a cheap piece of brass, and it's not even from Egypt. There's a maker's mark on it.
Beauregard says, "Absolutely splendid. Where did you ever find? Where did you ever find such a rare device?"
In Egypt, have you been?
Oh, many times, but I've never seen one like this. And what makes it special to you?
Well, as I was saying, it's clearly. And he starts speaking in art appreciation speak, talking about the tool marks and the love of a craftsman and the connection between the spiritual and the mundane, and the rich life of the spirit that must arise in someone who dwells in the desert sands along the Nile, and if this thing wasn't made in London, you're a dragon.
Right. I slowly just pull away from Owen, and I gently touch Edmund's arm. And I whisper in his ear, as casual as I can without insulting Owen's presence. I say, "He has appeared to have lost his mind."
Well, he's still a friend. We have a certain obligation to him. Nothing that we can discharge this evening. We're going to have to wait until tomorrow morning to get him down into town.
Indeed. And this mistress, amidst his insanity, we must find her.
That's what's interesting to me. This is there's more going on here. But I don't know that there's anything we're going to be able to do about it this evening.
Agreed.
You hear footsteps coming down.
I crap myself, panic, and throw myself through a window.
Not that kind of footsteps, more like someone approaching the house kind of footsteps. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go have a look and see what's going on.
All right. Beauregard places himself in front of the detective, almost in a protective manner at this point. He does not like what's going on at all, and he wants to protect his friends, both of them, as best as he can. And he is armed, and he starts to walk down the stairwell or towards the direction of the front of the building, so that he can greet whoever is coming in.
Hand on his shoulder. Let's try not to present a martial quality to our response. Why don't you take Owen back into the kitchen and see to it he gets some food?
Beauregard kind of snuffs. He snuffs in frustration, but he knows his friend is right. And
if we put him and the cook together, maybe you might be able to suss something out.
And he looks at Edmund, and he just almost smirks, and he goes, "Good Lord, too insane. Are you trying to have me drink?" And he starts to walk towards the kitchen with Owen.
All right. I'll answer the door.
So you go to the door, you pull it open, Beauregard's disappearing into the back of the house towards the servants' section. And almost to the door is the very slowly moving, tall, thin form of Carl, the butler.
I have questions for you, my man.
I thought you might.
And I'll take him into the study where we just were with all the junk so that I can have a chat.
The look of pain on his face as soon as he catches sight of the pool table with all the trinkets laid out across it. He goes, oh. It's heartbreaking,
It's obvious that the house was in the process of being closed up. I'm thinking for this Egypt trip he was planning and never made.
Never made. Yes, sir.
And these are the trinkets that he's decided he brought back from the desert. He says, what prevented his going on the trip? He says, it's obvious that something has distressed him to the point that his mind is broken. Which interests me why a young woman would still want to marry him even in his decrepit condition.
She holds herself responsible.
How so?
Well, would you care for a drink, sir?
Absolutely.
So he gets out the good stuff.
It's cold. He's drinking. And actually, I'll fire up my pipe while I'm at it. Let's lend some joviality to the proceedings.
He can't light a fire in the grate.
Cherry tobacco type.
Right. Ooh, nice. So he takes one of the sheets off of a comfortable armchair for you. He pulls up a wooden stool and serves you, and then inclines his head as if to ask, may I also? He pours himself.
I'm a working man. I don't stand on ceremony, sir.
Master Owen went to Egypt a few years ago, actually. When he came back, he was very ill. He had a brain fever. He was not himself. It took him a long time to recover. It took him longer to work up the courage to return to Egypt, but he decided he had to. Every day walking up the stairs and looking at that face reminded him of... Well, anyway, he decided that he would go back to Egypt. And my wife convinced him that a going away celebration with inviting the neighbors might lended a more jovial air. And so we entertained for the first time. Well, just the first time since his father passed, there were guests in this house. And he met Miss Holdings, Anna, his fiancée. And, you know, sir, it's funny to speak of love, but I believe I saw it sprout between them. But something changed about Owen. Something began to prey on him. He began to imagine things, talk about conversations which had never happened, and then he stopped eating, and then the nightmares and the screaming began.
Tell me about Jane.
Oh, he drops the glass and his face goes white.
Yeah,
How do you know about Jane?
It says, I spoke with the cook.
A genuine look of disgust. That man.
That man
We do
may
not speak
actually
of Jane in this house.
Well, we're going to now. He says, unless you want me to turn this into an official inquiry.
No. No. So he, you know, his hand is shaking. He's looking at the spilled glass.
It's obvious that this is something distressing that's occurred. Who is Jane?
Master Owen was engaged once before. And the young lady was touring the rooftop gardens, the most beautiful roses. And she slipped and she fell right in front of the house. And died, of course. And that was the first time where Master Owen lost touch with what is really happening.
And why is it that the cook seems to think that Jane is somehow involved in all of this? We're not suggesting that the house is haunted, are we?
Oh, it's ridiculous.
I would agree. And I'll motion for another drink.
So he's quite willing to get another glass and fill yours, but the force of habit, he again asked permission to have a drink of his own.
No, I'll just nod. There's a hospital in the town. There's a hospital in the town, yes?
Small, yes.
All right. He says, I think in the morning it's imperative that we take Mr. Huddersfield down so that the doctor can examine him and he can get the help that he needs.
If he'll go, yes.
He'll go. I think we can convince him.
Well, then it was good that Miss Holdings contacted you.
What's she like?
He relaxes with this question. She's a very prim and proper young lady, and you know, when she enters the room, you see people smile. I like that. She's nothing like her mother. Sorry, sir.
Well, they never are when they're young, are they? You know what I mean? So when she's here, is Jane placed at bay, at least in Owen's mind?
He can sleep. Sometimes he'll eat. But as soon as she leaves, it's worse.
Has he left the house for any length of time?
not to my knowledge, sir.
How about the gardens? Has he even gone outside?
Maybe to the roof.
All right. Well, we'll see what we can do for him. We'll try and get him in there tomorrow morning. You've brought the carriage around, yes?
To the gate, sir.
All right.
With a horse.
In the morning. In the morning when it's light, we'll try and bring it in so we can get him out of here. I don't think he's quite capable of walking that far.
Yes, you're quite right.
In the meantime, he says, this evening, it's all of our jobs to try and help him get through the evening until we can get him out of here.
He looks up at the clock. It will be worse soon, sir.
There's a time when it's worse?
Yes. It's almost 11.
And what's the significance of 11?
Nothing, but by 11:30, Master Huddersfield will be quite insensible, screaming and yelling and saying that he will not do it. And I've asked him night after night after night, but I don't know what it is that he will not do.
Well, let's go see if Beauregard's had any more luck. He says, you've been most helpful, thank you. He says, hold fast, we'll make it through the evening. He says, trust me, I've seen a lot worse.
Oh, well, that's good. Very good. I'll clean up in here.
All right. Come on back to the kitchen when you're done.
Yes, sir.
And I'll go back to the kitchen to see how Beauregard's done. Over to you!
In the kitchen, Bobby the chef has not slacked off in his consumption of alcohol in your absence. And he's reached the drunken crying stage.
And I am approaching with Owen in his frail and sickly state. And I approach the chef and I say, good Lord, man, get yourself together. What's wrong with you? And he takes the bottle away from the chef. He looks at the ovens. Are they turned on?
They are warm, but Edmund had opened them so they would begin to cool off, because there was nothing ready to cook.
He pulls a chair up for Owen to sit down, the most comfortable chair that he can find.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, we must eat. And he looks at the chef and he says, as I said before, pull yourself together and get your master something to eat now.
So he staggers to his feet, and you'd had bread and some of the chopped vegetables and some preserves out earlier when you were speaking to him there within easy reach, and so he's pulling them together and trying to assemble something light for Owen to eat. Owen doesn't seem to be very interested, and he keeps staring at you, like up and down and looking at your face and bewildered almost at how you have changed since last he saw you.
What is the matter, Owen? He said, I sit gently next to him, trying to console him. Please, let us talk.
You're carrying a rifle in my house.
Well, you know my exploits. I need this.
Oh, that's right. You're a game hunter.
Precisely. However, and he
I thought that was your brother.
I sleep in a bed with it.
Reginald, he goes, Reginald has a way of commandeering my exploits. However, they tolerate them.
Those who need to know of whom truly has embarked on those journeys, including
Well, yes,
yourself.
Reginald was a pain at school too, wasn't he?
Delightfully. So, you seem to be in better spirits. Have something to eat. And he takes a little preserves and spreads it on bread, hands it to Owen, and he says, "Have you heard of screaming in your abode? Have you heard of any nightmares? Have you been having nightmares?"
The shifting of his eyes tell you he's lying.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "No, everything's fine. I've just been a little ill. Everything will be fine as soon as I'm married."
It's quite interesting. This is the third time you have approached your marriage as a predecessor to a conversation we've had about something other than your marriage. Why is it so important?
Well, you'll understand when you meet her. She's amazing. Now, Andre, could I have a perception roll, please?
Sure.
You'll need 3 successes. You can do that on the average if you're able.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see because my perception is 5, so my average will be 2.
So you can roll 1 die and make up the difference.
Make up the difference. Gotcha. And here we go. And here's the roll. And I fail.
Oh, okay. So he begins to describe all of Anna's wonderful qualities, and these are all wonderful things, similar to what we heard Carl say. Her smile lights up the room. She's prim and proper. She's going to make a good home. She's going to change him. She's going to, everything the newly engaged like to say.
But you must understand my concern. If she is so, how would you say, splendid, why are you so unwell cared for? You must understand, we find you and your estate in shambles. How can we trust that this is the woman that's right for you? And how can we trust that your current state is not a result of something more?
So he turns and he grips the cook's arm, grips Bobby's arm, and says, "Because they've all deserted me.
Who?
Everyone. The staff. The groundskeepers."
Those that remain speak of horrors, of screams in the night.
And Bobby's trying to signal you like don't talk about it.
All except for the chef, of course. I have not spoken to him on this.
We don't do screams. We don't do screams.
Well, what have
Bobby's
you to say?
Bobby and Carl. Carl, I can trust Carl, but everybody else has left. They've packed the house. They've told me I've got to leave. And
So, how Beauregard kind of scratches his chin and he goes, "Might I stay with you for the night?"
please, we can stay up all night and tell stories.
How excellent! I would love to stay with you. I'd like to stay and have as much of a conversation as we can have throughout the night, and see how the night goes. I think it's important for us to catch up.
Just like at school. And Eddie could stay up too, although he looks really old.
Oh, be kind. He's absolutely old, but we won't talk about that. Still, look, we have to stay up as long as we can all night and catch up, tell our stories. I will tell you of all my exploits, and you will tell me of your time with your beautiful woman.
Excellent, excellent.
And will she
So
be
he
coming?
begins
He says,
in the morning.
in the morning, excellent. So we will do this, and in the morning we will greet her, and we will have a wonderful meeting, and we will talk of your marriage and all of your future exploits with your wonderful queen-to-be.
Excellent. It's so wonderful that you're here. And he begins telling Bobby to pull things out of the pantry and particular wine that he favors, and we'll go to the front room.
All right, so we start to walk towards, and I'm assuming at this point Edmund's walking towards us.
Correct.
As we approach Edmund, I say, Eddie, it seems that we have secured stay for the night. Our kind friend here, Owen, has agreed to let us unfold the stories of our past together and enjoy each other's company throughout the night. What say you to that?
Sounds like an excellent thing to do. We've come all this way. Why sleep?
Precisely. And I surrender the narrative to the GM at this point.
All right. Now, traveling behind you were, of course, your aides. Following Beauregard is a very loyal, very capable batsman. Served with him, traveled with him. He's bringing the real luggage. And following...
I suspect I actually would have traveled on my own.
No doubt. Following his arrival with the rest of the luggage, Carl seems much more at ease than he was before. He has not only something to do, but there are men of action who have clearly been showing their concern for his master. Perhaps he was at the end of his rope by the time you arrived. Your batsman, Dale, takes you aside, Beauregard. Sir.
Yes.
Are you really going to sleep here?
Well, I've slept in many worse places. What be the concern of you, Dale?
Worse than this?
Oh, please. What is your concern?
I'll load the guns.
Precisely.
And it's almost as if it's just understood that the guns will come. And that's happening. But he turns back to Dale and he goes, what did you see on the way here? Anything to report?
Well, I took a little reconnoiter of the local pubs, and that's what delayed my arrival. And I asked, about the place, and when they heard I was coming out here, you have to understand, this was a place called the Slaughtered Lamb.
Oh, pish. This is my friend's abode. We will escort him and stay with him through the night. We'll
Yes,
have none
sir.
of that. There's a rational explanation for the concerns that everyone has, and I'm here to find it. Died trying. This is my friend.
Yes, sir.
And of course, the worst will probably happen, of course, you realize. But
No doubt. It'd be just like the time you got shot.
right. But
I'll
still.
load the guns.
Exactly. And he just, pessimism just starts to pour out of him, and he goes, he starts to second guess everything he does with his equipment and speaking to Dale, but he tries to shake it off and looks at Edmund, and he says, is Owen still with them?
I'm
Okay.
not letting him out of my sight.
Okay, great. All right, so the pessimism starts to come out of Beauregard, and he says, he looks at Edmund and he kind of whispers and he says, "Ill tidings come from outside. The town's whispers of
slaughtered lamb or some sort of bad rumors this state has. You know how that goes.
All these old houses have some sort of nickname, things of that sort. I mean,
Right.
we've had an old stately home. I'm sure bad things have happened here in the past. Let's face it, bad things happen every day. He says,
Right.
I see it every day. He says, the sorts of horrors that people try to trump up in their mind are nothing compared to what you find in the low streets in Whitechapel and Limehouse. So,
Beauregard starts to tap his fingers nervously, and he says, "Horrors indeed. Horrors that might fright the mind, that might cause visions." And he just starts to nervously tap his hallucinations of women dropping out of windows, and he just starts to ramble in a very uncomfortable manner.
hand on the shoulder. I fear your exposure to Owen may have unnerved you somewhat.
He takes a deep breath and he looks at Edmund, kind of regains his composure, and he sees that his friend is calming him down, and he says, "Quite right, quite right." And he looks back and he just looks at his luggage and Dale, and he says, "Let's proceed."
He says, you have to remember, this is, we're the only animal God ever made that can think and rationalize. He says, as long as we keep a hold of our wits, he says, nothing can unman us.
Beauregard says nothing to that.
That's
Dale
because
says-
it was awesome.
Dale looks at him. He's like, I like him.
Why, thank you, Dale. All right, let's go on into the main room. Let's get settled down, and let's actually tell some stories, etc. The kind of thing. Keep his mind off of whatever it is that's making him bughouse crazy. And at some point, if either Beauregard or I can pull myself free, I'd like to get a chance. Actually, I'd love for the both of us to be able to do it, but I don't want to leave Owen alone. I want to go up and have a look at the place where this Jane fell to her death.
Right.
I am, after all, a detective.
Detect. Okay. So, in other words, maybe your curiosity is getting the better of you.
It absolutely is. But I figure we need to wait until about 11:30. Like, what's his name was saying. But I want to use my diplomacy and see if I can actually use that to kind of set an atmosphere that's more calming, and see if we can actually keep Huddersfield with us mentally longer than was expected. Maybe our presence actually will keep him stable enough that as we go through this sort of thing, maybe we can start sussing out and pull out the stories of what the hell is going on here without tipping anybody. And having the Carl here, I'm hoping to use him kind of as a barometer, whereas if we can get the stories going, I want to watch their faces to figure out if we're getting the truth or being bullshitted.
Right.
So that's my goal, to kind of passively pull it out without actually like trying to drill in, because I think if we try that, he'll clam up and won't move. So the point is to have him sort of start dropping hints or maybe little side things so that I can start piecing together exactly what's going on. My assumption is this Jane person killed herself. He went nuts. Hasn't quite recovered from it. And he's met this girl, and she might be able to pull him out of it, but he's resisting. So right now, I'm still not buying into the supernatural aspect. I'm assuming the guy's gone doolally, and Beauregard, who always had a propensity for seeing the darker sides of things, has just immediately been grabbed. It has just taken up all of the atmosphere, and this could all be just our friend's actually gone a little nuts, but Beauregard's so busy trying to find the oh, the worst thing that could happen is the devil is waiting in the basement. And I'm like, how about we step down a little bit from the devil thing and just assume that maybe this is all just a normal thing. Cause.
Could happen. It could happen. Could be normal.
Absolutely. The worst that could possibly happen right now is we traveled a whole long way for our friend to turn out to be batshit crazy.
So nice to see you again. So, let's start with diplomacy then.
On this one, I think I'm actually going to roll since my average is only 2.
Yeah.
Let's see how it goes. Like crap.
Well, there's one success.
Yeah, there's one success. Well, I'll tell you what. How about I blow 2 successes for or 2 style points for an extra one?
All right. That will be fine.
That will salve some of my curiosity.
Okay. And
he said, trying to get another style point.
Yes. I'm in the process. For Beauregard's Great Depression, I will slip 1 style point your way also, and for that impeccable exposition showing how much attention you have been paying and how curious Edmund is, I will slide you 2.
Ooh.
Now, you talk into the night. It was nearing 11, and now the hands of the clock have drifted across the hour and are drifting down towards 11:30, and Carl, as buoyed as he has been by the presence of all these men of action in the house and the change it's working on Owen, who's out of bed downstairs eating, drinking, and talking to people. The veneer of calm is beginning to fade. He's having a harder and harder time maintaining his composure. Dale is sent out by Carl to do all manner of things. Bring in more wood, bring in some coal, start a fire, get rid of the rest of these sheets, clean this off, and so on. And Dale is doing it without hesitation.
The place. We need it to be warm and manly and friendly. That's why I think not the sitting room, but the billiard room.
Right.
I think that's the one.
And the snifters come out, and the really good drink, and Dale will take on the role of bartender, and Carl is kind of standing at the door, dealing with the more formal requests, such as for the cigars and so on. And tales from school flow. And you're getting through. Owen is laughing and not sharing much in the way of stories. He thrills to the tales of the tiger hunt, and he thrills to the idea of serial killers in Whitechapel. But then 11:30 is nearing, and a painful conversational lull. You can feel it just about to arise.
I'll jump in on something else. Tell us about Anna.
Well, he begins to talk about the day they first met, and how the house was full of strangers, and he wasn't very comfortable with that. There had been the last time there had been guests was for the wake for his father, and so he was basically hiding out away from everyone, and she had demanded to see the master of the house and be shown the famous gardens. And as they walked through the gardens, she had lightly taken his arm, and from that moment on, he was smitten, and he took her on a tour all around the grounds, and within a few days had proposed marriage. But he very obviously leaves out the months of madness, depression, and chaos which have followed, and he also leaves out the idea of going on an expedition.
Have we managed to carry past 11:30?
It's maybe 11:45.
So it's actually working. grill him a little more about her parents, things like that. And has he been to visit them then at the house? Anything like that?
Okay. He has done his due diligence, but you get this from Carl. He hasn't gone to ask formally for her hand. The hesitation in Carl's voice every time he says fiance now has some explanation. Much of the relationship, perhaps, is in his mind.
All right. Anything that you're thinking about, Andrea?
Beauregard is listening, obviously, intently to the conversation, but as the night goes on, he cannot shake the image that he saw in the window. And his suspicions begin to arise as to whether or not something more is going on here. And he just wanders around the room to see if anything out of the ordinary is going on. Not because he's knowledgeable of the 1130 timeline, he doesn't even know, but only simply because he saw a woman fall out of a window and not be there anymore. And he is quite concerned with the fact that his friend seems to be calm, and it's gathering in the hours. It's becoming late at night, and he feels as if something horrible is to be expected, and he starts to wander a bit around the billiard room towards the front entrance, seeing if he can listen or hear any screams, and wonder if it wasn't even his friend that was screaming.
I want to shift it to how he's been doing since his father died. Let's go ahead and I want to try and bring it in as non-invasively as possible, but I suspect that this is a key point, and I want to tap it and see what response I get, even though I suspect it's going to go badly. But I'm wondering if that's actually the snap point on him. That whatever happened with his father, either before or after the death, is kind of what's driving the madness.
It's a normal question.
Says this snoring dog.
She's a sweetheart. It's a normal question. You hadn't seen him in decades, and his father has passed on. And how did he go? And Carl's face tightens, and even Dale, who's busy being a general dog's body, he just kind of freezes for a second, very suspicious, senses on alert. And Owen.
And actually, could I use my investigation for this to kind of
sure do it?
See if maybe I can get a little. And my gut says just you take the average of 3, but you know what? I'm going to be one of my players.
and roll it.
Go ahead and roll it, knowing that this is disaster in the making, or not.
Hey, look at that!
2, 3. Yeah, I beat this. No, way beat the statistical average. That's 5. Boom.
All right. He's spinning you a yarn. He says it was his heart.
How's Carl's response to those?
the eyebrows climb, but more from a sense that he's opening up. Long ago, back at school, back at Winchester, Owen had a way of speaking about things, and when he meant great shame or embarrassment, he would always find a way to reference the heart. Right? When the teacher humiliated him, he was having a heart attack. When he was bullied, it hurt his heart, not his pride, not his body. He would always speak of his heart. This reference to his father saying it was his heart could be connected to something completely different than the normal assumption. He may have died of shame.
Okay, well, once we get him off that, you know what? I think I'm going to see if Dale has any kind of fancy stories that he can tell. You know what? We always hear the stories from the big man. What do you think about that tale that Beauregard said? And if I can get him going on that, I want to try and pull Beauregard aside so we can kind of discuss what we've seen.
Right.
Let's go get a drink over here at the other side of the room and whisper absolutely not suspiciously at all.
So Dale tells a different spin on a famous lion hunting story, which in the official version, had definitely involved sneaking cautiously through shrubbery and did not include the charging rhinoceros or wildebeest that actually caused them to stumble across the lion. So he's filling in the details of how they came to be there, and it's quite a rousing story. And Owen is sliding back toward a childhood frame of mind, and he's got a genuine smile on his face as he's imagining, the sun-drenched Africa. And you guys drift over to where the alcohol cart is and where the cigars are, and Carl's watchful eye is on you.
So, what do you think?
I don't know what to make of this.
I do like that you're smoking and I'm drinking.
He says, I don't know what to make of this, honestly. The vision that I saw before is, how would you say, for lack of a better term, haunting me. It's been quite suspicious.
One of the things that I was told by Carl was that his first fiancée, a woman named Jane, apparently fell to her death from the garden on the roof. Would have gone right past that window.
Interesting.
Absolutely, but it leads me to wonder whether or not Owen's attempts to try and create this woman as a fiancée is an attempt to sort of break whatever mental, psychic hold this woman might have had on him, the sense of guilt. There's something connected with the father, too. He says the problem is a man in a state like his, you can't push them too hard or they'll stop talking, they'll crack.
What are your recommendations?
I think one of us needs to go out and have a look at that garden and see what we can see.
Provided that I had the vision myself, I may know what to look for. I will go.
I seem to be able to keep him on track. I'm keeping him stable. He says, and I am pulling bits and pieces out of this story. For instance, you noticed Carl's response when I asked about his fiancée and going down to visit. He never did.
And you do feel that you cannot press him about his father?
This is, I don't want to push too hard, he says, but the heart attack, remember how he used to talk about his heart every time something hurt his feelings?
Right.
He says, I wonder if he feels his father died of shame for some reason.
I wonder. I would do as you say, though.
So,
I will head upstairs and see what I can find, and I'll report back as soon as I can.
try not to take an entire arsenal with you. I think it'll be safe.
Right. And he like shoulders his rifle. he holsters his pistol, as you say, and he just starts to walk out the room. Says, I shall return.
Dale at this point is gesticulating wildly as he's talking about the charge of the rhinoceros while he's trying to reload the rifle, and it's just madness.
Yeah, I think a shoulder on Owen's, or a hand on Owen's shoulder, and you feeling better kind of look. Is it? Yeah. Is it working?
Are you having fun? And that's when you notice it, Edmund Wilson, Detective Sergeant. His eyes are rolling up in his head, and he's rising to his feet. And he's apparently following Beauregard right out of the room.
Beauregard turns suddenly and he goes,
"No, keep going, keep going, keep going.
All right.
Keep going."
And he just...
And I'm going to look at Carl. He says, "Has he done this before?"
Yes, he'll take you to the roof.
All right, let's go.
And Dale's like, "You don't want to know how it ends?"
We know how it ends. We read his brother's account of the story.
Owen is moving up the stairs like a sleepwalker.
Okay.
Almost like he's being pulled up the stairs.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to follow. I'm not gonna engage him. I'm not gonna talk to him. I'm just gonna let him go with what's going on. Let Beauregard lead the way. And when we get up, once we get up there, I think that's when we might be able to engage him. But until then, so follow him up.
Right.
Past the creepy ass portrait.
Yeah.
That's right. Which is glowering down upon you with as much disdain as it did when he was alive.
Oh, giant dick. All right, let's go on up to the garden.
Yeah, you pass the first floor and then up to the third, where it opens out onto the terrace rooftop. Wildly impractical rooftop. But the rooftop itself is broken by chimneys coming up from various rooms. The house has never really been modernized, and there is a ruined garden.
Yeah, is there a railway around it?
But it's only like knee high.
Oh, okay. So it's entirely possible it could have been an accident. It's not. It doesn't necessarily have to have been. Yes.
Or suicide.
Okay. Yeah, so this is entirely. It's entirely plausible that this could just have been an accident. All right. Yeah. And the garden, I'm assuming, is all overgrown and.
It's a mess. It's all different varieties of roses.
Okay. What do you see, Owen?
The roses are lovely in the moonlight, he says, but he's not answering your question. He goes, "Yes, I think my father will say yes if we explain it to him, and he's taking a tour of the garden. He's barely speaking above a whisper, but it's so quiet that it's loud. There's no sounds of animals or snoring dogs.
It's completely 100% no life signs, no crickets, no birds, silence.
Nothing. There's the moon occasionally peering down through the thin clouds, and darkness and silence, and only your own breathing and his low tone as he's having this old conversation as he moves around."
You hear when I unbutton the holster of my pistol, and I look at Edmund, and I'm okay, but it's too quiet kind of gesture. Let's go on.
If we get jumped by a lion, I'll let you know. Who are you talking to, Owen?
No, I don't think he'll be mad. He won't be mad. And next to him, as if liquid being poured into a long glass vial, a dim blue glow is beginning to appear.
Right. Okay. Now this is not normal.
And that thin blue streak begins to slowly ooze out into the shape of a woman's dress. Not distinct, but like a blue fog.
All right,
And
you need a willpower roll.
this is correct. Willpower times 2
For both of us.
for both of you. Your horror
Is
check.
it something I can? Is it something I can pull off with just to take the average of 3?
Well, whereas I'm not telling you the horror rating, you can certainly do that.
Tell you what, I'm going to blow 2 points to make it
Yeah,
a
so am I.
definite 4.
So
Okay.
am I. I'm gonna go
I am
through
now officially creeped out, but I'm figuring if I want to get off this rooftop alive, I need to keep my crap together.
That's right. So spending the style can be like representing your training. You've both been in terrible situations before. You harden your minds against this. You both
Actually,
already know that there are bad things out there.
Well, actually, it tells me that if this is something supernatural, the 1890s were a period of really heavy spiritualism, even if you were religious. So while this could be creepy, it might not be completely unexpected for him.
Look at this roll.
You rolled. I see.
Are you
Okay.
going to throw yourself off a bridge? Ah! Well, that was useful. Thank you. You took the guns with you.
So
Now we're gonna really see some good roleplay.
Detective Sergeant Wilson stands strong in the face of this supernatural manifestation of a woman in a dress.
I peed a little. But
Yes. Fear is definitely present, but the impact on your mental faculties is negligible. However, for Beauregard, the impact is significant, and please reduce your sanity rating by 2.
All right.
Not enough for him to completely lose his crap
Well,
and run
I'm
for it.
halfway.
No.
I'm halfway sane now. I'm assuming the immediate response would be, with losing half of his sanity, would be panic. I mean, let's be frank. And his immediate reaction is to push Edmund to the side and immediately grab Owen and pull him away from this bright light. And he pulls him to the side, facing him, and goes, "Snap out of it, man! Demon!" And he just pushes him out and tries to push him into the roses, and he pulls his rifle out and that's it. I think that would be about it.
Yep. I'm gonna try and do my best to at this point run sort of a command over this one and do the stop, easy, Beauregard. This is we don't know what we're dealing with. We don't want to make this worse.
Beauregard's face is his mustache is quivering. His face is completely pale. He's looking at his friend. He ignores Edmund. He's looking at Owen for some type of response other than a conversation that he's having with this entity, this spirit, this demon that he cannot identify, but that has put so much dread into him. And he says, "Speak to me now, Owen. Tell me what this is."
Okay. Now, Wilson wants it to be calm. This is unnerving.
This is uncalm.
That's right. Let's have an empathy check from Wilson to see if he can reman the unmanned Beauregard.
Okay, I'll go ahead and roll this one. And because it's my friend and I feel it's necessary under my code of honor to pull everything together and try and I want to get everyone out of here alive, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to blow 2 to make certain I get at least 1 success.
Excellent.
And let's see how I do. That would give me 2 successes.
That would give you 2 successes, and I'll give you a style point back for following your code and not your panic.
Awesome sauce.
And so Beauregard's lunging in to grab Owen,
Oh god, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. He's under its spell. He says, the key to this is to talk to it.
But I'm sure that would that override my panic? His successful roll?
You
I mean,
have taken a
if
huge
he
hit
took two
and are
sand,
afraid.
maybe.
Yeah, I'm just trying to role play this right. So, I'll yield, but not completely. I will still be holding Owen, and
That's fine.
I'll look at Edmund, but still not be able to respond correctly. And I look at Edmund as if I was talking to Owen, and I'm looking at Edmund going, "He must tell us."
Yep, and I'm going to look at the thing, and I'm going to go, if you can communicate, if he can hear you, am I speaking to Jane?
Okay. So,
I need to resolve this in a way that doesn't actually have to go in an official report, because otherwise I'm going to lose my job.
all right. So, Beauregard had lunged forward, grabs onto Owen. Wilson interposes himself, injecting a note of calmness, and
That I do not
Owen
feel.
Owen is coming out of the spell, and the light is fading away. But as it does so, it moves toward the edge of the house and vanishes over it.
Right. Okay. Does Owen look like he's coming out?
Owen is definitely arousing himself, and he says, "Oh, the roof."
Owen, we just saw something intriguing.
The flowers?
And he says, the woman.
Anna? You've met Anna?
And he says, I don't think so.
Beauregard's hands are shaking, and he lets go of Owen,
Yep.
yielding the conversation to Edmund.
Owen, who was up here? Who did I just see? And I'm going to point towards the edge.
Of which Beauregard is walking towards to look down again.
My father used to like to come up here. He always liked to watch the sunset from up here. He would stand over there. He points to the other end of the roof. I don't like coming up here much. You probably know about Jane.
Is that who she was? Is that who you were talking to?
He looks legitimately confused.
He says, you had a fugue. He says, you stopped responding, you brought us up here. He says, and as you were speaking to somebody about whether or not the father would approve, a thing appeared. He says, shapeless, almost like a woman, a blue dress. He says, does this mean anything to you?
And in the distance you hear Beauregard, and she vanished again!
Not helping!
He's not supposed to be.
Now, he's starting to walk. He's starting to gesticulate. He's having difficulty getting this off his chest.
No one's
You know
going to
about
judge
Jane.
you. He says,
I was engaged. I proposed to her, and he points to the edge of the house where the spectral light disappeared. So I proposed to her right there. I didn't ask her father. I didn't ask my father. I just wanted to run away and be engaged. But she said no, and you know we fought, and then I went downstairs, and later Carl came to me and said that she had fallen.
Beauregard immediately spits on the ground, and he goes, "Absolutely not. Your father was here. You pointed to the far end of the roof. Was he here during your conversation?"
Yes, he overheard, and that's why we fought. And then
He immediately looks at the detective, and we know what happened from then.
No, we don't know what happened. Not yet. This is. Owen, did your father push him?
No, we excused ourselves, and we went down into the house, and like I said, Carl let me know that she had fallen. He's moving closer to the edge. So she was standing where I left her, I imagine. I think about it all the time, just standing and then looking down. And did she fall, or did she jump?
You departed this rooftop with your father, leaving your fiancée by herself, knowing that your father had contention with your imminent engagement. Why would you do such a thing?
He told me to go, and you don't disobey my father.
And you don't abandon your fiancée. And yet you chose your father.
It's a rooftop garden. We come up every night. He's standing right on the edge now.
Yeah, I'm going to make certain I'm standing there to kind of put my hand on him and push him back a step.
Okay. As you reach out, Edmund, your hand is passing through a horribly cold spot, as if you're submerging it in ice water.
All right, I'm just going to put that down to microclimates and push him back a step.
Your beard is standing on end. Your hair is moving in an ethereal wind, and I will call again for a sanity check.
That I am terrified.
Excellent. However, sanity.
Coming. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bitch.
Nice. You are still in control. Scared as you are, you're still you. Now, Beauregard.
Fortunately, I'm wearing black, so you can't see the P.
Beauregard, from your distance, you can see Edmund and Owen are surrounded in a nimbus of that pale blue light. You're muted.
And they're still approaching the edge, and Edmund's trying to stop him. Upon trying to stop him, this blue glow starts to surround them. And
from your perspective.
From my perspective.
And you're in the middle of the roof. Yeah.
Beauregard, being as crazy and off kilter as he is right now.
Do not shoot.
He No, he's not going to shoot. But what he will do is, his biggest fear is that both of his beloved friends are going to become either possessed or pushed off by this force that is coming towards him. So he charges them so that they cannot go to the edge, and he tries to shoulder tackle them back into the roses. And he says, "Begone!"
It's like a big hook.
Spirit. Yeah, "Begone, foul spirit!" And he just charges and tries to make sure that nobody jumps off.
Initiative.
Ow.
Initiative, yay!
You have an initiative score on your sheet there, Andre? You just roll it.
Yes, sir. I'm just trying to locate it. My computer is acting a little wacky.
That's 3 for me.
Okay, it's 6 for me.
Yep.
All right. And I roll, and I get 1, 2, 3.
3. Yep.
Okay, so we tied up.
All right. So you are tied. And, of course, perhaps the story afterwards, depending on who's telling the story, will determine exactly what happened and who did what to whom first. But let's see. In a chaos of motion and blue light, we have Beauregard charging at the two of you. And Edmund, you are positive that there's a force between you and Edmund, and you can both hear and sense as it tries to shove Edmund off the edge.
That's hardly cricket. I've
And
tried to be understanding to this creature.
You can hear it say, "Join me."
No. Okay.
He will fall to his death unless he can be saved.
All right. Well, I'm assuming Beauregard is going to tackle the crap out of us. So I guess my defense is a 5. Ah!
So you're not going to try and grab for him. You're going to brace against impact.
I'm going to try and keep Owen from going over the side, but yeah, I guess I'm just going to have that shocked look, like At least I'm not
So
getting
double strength.
On my part? On his part?
No, on Wilson's part.
Okay.
And no one's actively trying to resist the tackle from Beauregard, so
Yeah,
you
so
will
it's
be
a
able to make a pretty devastating hit. 3? All right. So the shove is intense, and he loses his footing, and his heels go up against the low railing around the roof of the house.
Uh-oh.
Oh, grand. Which one? Which he? Me or
Owen. And you have him.
Well, bugger. All right, I'm going to try and sling him back onto the roof.
Which you are doing, right? So as his legs are buckling, you've got him. You're strong enough to hold him. And then the subsequent impact of Beauregard along the edge of the house throws the three of you into the rose bushes.
Ow.
Thorns and all.
Ow.
You can thank me later.
All right, I'm feeling my calm beginning to disappear now. All right, dust the three of us off. You all right, Owen?
What is Owen's response?
Owen!
Yeah, Owen!
Owen's face is blank.
Grand. Okay, now let's get him back inside.
Not the place we need to be anymore. It is time for him to leave this keep until we can find some form of exorcist or something, please.
Now then, assist me in getting him off the roof.
Please, let's do that. And he's picking out like thorns from his forehead and chin, trying to. He's extremely panic shaking.
Still have quite that rugby tackle down, don't you?
A couple of tigers will teach that to you. Let's go.
You're
As you
tackling
turn to
tigers?
leave the roof.
Oh, I'm keeping an eye on the roof.
Yeah. As you turn to leave the roof, you see Carl is standing there at the stairway down.
Mm-hmm.
We buried her in the front rose garden.
What exactly? Now I'm no longer being as quiet and calm as I was. This is interrogation time. I'm going to let Beauregard sort of push Owen along. I'm going to collar the crap out of this guy and just do the what the hell happened to him. And does my social being a DS count on the interrogation?
It does.
All right.
+1 to that, indeed.
All right. Hang on just a moment. Actually, I have +2 since I upped it to a status of 1. So hang on a moment. Let me crank this here. So it's a 4 base with a plus. All right, that's 4. So.
Okay.
So 4 successes.
All right. He cracks. It's been a long day and night. He had hope. He lost hope, and now he's seen a vision from beyond the grave.
Yep. So have I.
Starts
That's why I'm...
We buried her in the garden, not far from where she fell. We told no one. We told Owen that she had run away. He didn't believe us. Somebody eventually told him what had happened. After that, his father had despised him. Too small, too weak, too strange.
Did she fall, or did his father push her?
He pushed her.
All right.
His father witnessed it. And he had us hide it. And when Owen was lucid, became rarer and rarer. And I thought, with Anna, things might be different. But then he just says again, but we buried her in the rose garden.
All right. He says, you walk. Beauregard?
Yes.
He says, your plan is now the official plan. Let's get some shoes on these people. We're getting out of here and back into town. This is now an official inquiry.
Well said, sir.
What was the last name of the girl? Miss Jane.
Jane's last name was Holdings.
Dang. Okay. Yep. Well, now the goal is we're going to grab our gear. Even if we don't take everything right now, just grab what we absolutely need. We're going to walk these people out to the carriage, and we're going to take them down into town because, you know what? There's been a murder. Yes, it's my friend. But he needs to answer for this. Obviously, he's gone insane from the pain of it, so he'll probably wind up in a institution, and that's probably where he should be, but that's not up to me. That's up to the courts and the judges. But I have to open an inquiry, because if this girl went missing somewhere, there's a report.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, the curtain closes on this brief investigation into a creepy, sad old house on the moors. In our first exploration of Leagues of Gothic Horror, I'd like to thank my 2 special guests, Scott and Andre, for joining me. And, of course, as always, snoring sound effects provided by Billy. If you've made it this far, we've had viewers throughout. Thank you very much for watching. It'll be available on the channel later. If you're interested in Leagues of Gothic Horror, it's now available for digital download through the usual places, and will be available in print later on. Do you have any last words?
Ran pretty well. I enjoyed it.
Thanks.
It went pretty much where I thought it was going to go, but I also know how to plot, so it was enjoyable. So.
No Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in my Leagues of Gothic Horror.
True enough.
I've had an excellent time, and Edmund's an amazing character, and you're an amazing GM, so thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, I had a
Thanks
good
for joining.
Yeah, actually,
right.
I'm pretty impressed with the Google Hangout thing, too. It seems to work really well.
It is a nice way to game when there are no gamers.
Mm-hmm. It's spanning half the globe.
That's right. It's Sunday at 1:50 p.m. my time. And,
and it is currently almost 11 o'clock here in Albuquerque, so
12:50 in Virginia.
there you go.
So with that, gentlemen, I bid you adieu. Thank you for gaming with me.
Yes, good night.
Good night.